Hey everybody, it's been a little while, but I'm going to talk to you about what I've been doing the past year and a half. I've been making a 3D animated short film called Earl's World, which I wrote and directed throughout my time in university. So, Earl's World tells the story of a lonely zombie on a journey across the post-apocalyptic wasteland, when he meets a helpless child named Annie, who is also a zombie. I came up with this idea in October of 2019 for a visual storytelling class. I knew I wanted to do something with zombies, but I also wanted to be excited about it and try something different with the genre. So I asked myself, what if the story was only about zombies? From there, crafting a story became incredibly easy and it felt very fresh. I was inspired by other works such as Telltale's The Walking Dead, The Last of Us, and Logan, and what these stories all have in common is a story of companionship. And for this film, it will be between two zombies. The final animation ended up being a little over 2 minutes long, which was trimmed down from a 4-minute story which included really gory scenes with humans, but to save on time I had to chop half of it off. What I was left with was instead just a wholesome and heartwarming story between two monsters and the remains of their humanity. After spending what felt like months drawing up a storyboard, I got to make it move with the animatic. This was definitely an exciting part of the pipeline for me, and this was my chance to edit my storyboard together with moving graphics, have dialogue, sound, music, and to have something so I could watch in front of me and something I can present in follow-up pictures. Each element is made up of a drawing of a moving image, which was composited together to create a shot which I made using After Effects and edited together with Premiere Pro. The purpose of this animatic was to establish and to understand timing, pacing, and every shot of the story. This animatic does represent the full version of my original cut of Earl's World, with the retained story elements that can be watched from the link below or on my channel. Character modelling was one area I had been dreading for months. At the time, I didn't consider myself very good in ZBrush, and I still wasn't 100% sure on the style I was going for. I'm not a great character designer either, so the fundamentals of character shapes and silhouettes was the furthest thing from my mind, as my only aim was to create something that resembled a zombie using the turnaround I drew up for references. Creating Earl was a huge challenge though, and I spent upwards of a month alone just working on him. He needed to be just right, and he needed to resemble something, and most of all, I just needed to prove to my lecturers that this short film was something me and my team could do, and to do it properly of course. Earl went through dozens of iterations. The hardest part to get right was his face before I landed something I was finally satisfied with. I still have so much to learn as far as character modelling goes, but this was good enough. I began the unwrapping stage, which was way easier than I had expected, so we could start texturing. We went through countless variations of textures and kept playing with it for months, not even being 100% satisfied until the very last week of production. Rigging Earl was easy enough, and luckily for me, since there's no dialogue, I didn't need to consider every possible blend shape for his face, unlike most facial rigs. Earl has a total of 4 expressions: happy, sad, angry, and neutral, plus blinking, but that's not an expression. Motion capture was a necessity for this project. This is a 3D animated short film using humanoids as main characters. In a student film, this is definitely not the smartest thing you can do. It takes years and years of practice to animate a convincing lifelike character, and so much time to do so. This is a 2-minute long animation and only 3 people on my team. Only 2 of us knew how to 3D animate in 3 months to do it, and I'm definitely not a strong 3D animator. This animation took me a month. But luckily, I love motion capture, and this was going to be a massive shortcut. We shot it way back in August, which was so much fun for me because this is my first time I've ever been a director on an actual set and having my own little crew. The motion capture turned out to be a massive success by being able to capture all of Earl's movements and just a little bit of Annie's. The problem there, however, is that she's on the floor for 95% of the film, and lying on the floor conceals half of the tracking markers, which makes the data impossible for cameras to catch. So while we couldn't use motion capture for Annie, using traditional 3D animation techniques was totally achievable in our scope. Virtually no cleanup was required for Earl, which was a huge relief on my schedule and gave us more time to work on other sections of the project. The environment was by far the biggest challenge that I definitely underestimated. It was a huge task that required so many components from trees, rocks, so many rocks, cacti and ambient objects such as the rundown car, all of which put together creates this desert that I'm still not even sure where it's set. My references was the Mojave Desert, so we're just going to say the Mojave Desert. The first iteration of the environment was made using sculpting tools. It was super detailed and it looked super nice, except it was 14 million polygons. So in our second attempt, it looked pretty good, geometry wise at least. We used this environment in our first test shot and it looked okay, but it was missing a lot and I knew we could do better. The problem with our method was that we were building the environment the completely wrong way. We've been handcrafting it ourselves when we should have been taking advantage of Unreal Engine's landscaping capabilities. And that's what I used on our third attempt. And at this point, I was very satisfied with the environment, but I kept working on it whenever I could fit it into my schedule. It's a massive set and could always be better, and was something I kept working on right up until I had to start rendering. Rendering out of Unreal Engine and using Nuke to composite all of this together was a massive task that I didn't completely account for. Getting the look right was something we needed to nail very early in the process, and we began tests as soon as we had something to put into Nuke. This was something which we as a team would revisit week after week until the actual final day of submission, working with our lecturers whenever we could. It was important to me that the world felt vibrant and that it felt warm, also keeping in mind the basic composition fundamentals. To achieve our look, we rendered out 3 separate passes from Unreal Engine. The beauty pass, which is how it looks in Unreal, depth of field, and a cutout of Earl and Annie so we can modify their colours individually so they can stand out. For all 23 shots of the film, these settings had to be tweaked very subtly depending on the shot type and the shot angle. And on the final day, the day of submission, I was finally happy with how Earl's world looked. The animatic I made consisted of dialogue recorded by myself with my own microphone and using sound effects from YouTube. This is expected for an animatic, but I needed this to be done properly. So I asked a friend from the audio department of my university who was very willing to help me out and got to work straight away. The first thing we did was to record the dialogue properly, with voice actors and with the right equipment. This was super exciting for me to direct voices, as I spend lots of time watching behind the scenes of my favourite animations of actors recording dialogue. So I was just really excited to finally become someone to direct those actors throughout this process. I had my audio engineer handle the rest of the audio, such as sound effects and ambience, and as for music, I collaborated with a band of students from the music department, which was a very special treat for me and also a very easy process. When I got music that I was happy with, I sent it to my audio engineer to have it mixed with the final animation. So finally, on the 20th of December, I submitted Earl's World and was finished with university. I had technically spent the last 14 months on this project, from the initial pitch to the storyboard to the animatic to the actual production and all the way to the finish line. I am so thrilled and excited with how it turned out, and I was able to create a story as I saw it, mostly exactly in my head. From start to finish, this is everything I wanted to learn how to do, and I can't wait to see what other projects I can work on in the future and to be able to share it with everyone. Thank you all for watching.